I'm not overly fond of autumn. It can be pretty gloomy. But I come down in the morning and I lift the blind, and at this time of year I'm confronted with Camellia Navajo, which starts flowering early October and will carry on for a couple of months. It's a variety that Nuccio's nursery in California imported with a collection of other Sasanqua camellias from Japan, which does rather beg the question of whether the original plant is grown under its original name in Japan still. But it was registered in 1956, so a long time ago, and no other name seems to have emerged, not that I'm aware of. Pretty much red in the bud and then opens out, goes paler with the white at the centre, fading to pink at the edges. Lovely thing. And as you can see from the pictures here, masses of buds on it, so lots of flowers still to come. It seems to be a time of year when, as far as the flower is concerned, it's all either things that are still flowering or things that are beginning to flower now, that it's their season. Obviously bedding plants like the begonia at the front there still going on, and there's an alstroemeria there too. High amongst them is Salvia amistad. That's been going for months, along with Salvia black and bloom, to the purple of amistad. Just goes on and on and on. And the blue of black and bloom. Another one that just keeps on going is what I used to call Corydalis ocraluca. Well, I still call it Corydalis ocraluca, but it's now Pseudofumaria alba, not an improvement. And then just behind that, a thing again with a name change. I got this as Persicaria rancinata Needham's form. Now seems to be Persicaria sinuata Edward Needham. Good little ground cover plant. It's a thing that if you grow it in good conditions, you'll be punished by lush growth and not very much flower. Grow it in harsh conditions, you'll get a much more compact growth, more flower. Indigophora pendula has now been in flower for the best part of 4 months, and it's still looking pretty good, even if it isn't quite as good as it was at its peak. It's made a lot of growth, probably 4 foot or more, most of which I'll cut off in the winter, and with a bit of luck it'll do it all again next year. Dahlias are great for keeping colour going for a long period of time. Dahlia bed is suffering from not being supported properly, and it's looking very battered, but there's still colour there, so I'm in no rush to tidy it up. The spiky one there is a variety called Cheyenne, quite tall. And next to that is this one, the name of which escapes me at the minute. Talking of names escaping me, this is a fuchsia, species fuchsia, Fuchsia splendens, or maybe Fuchsia splendens Carl Hartwig, not sure. Flowers late in the year after making growth from having been cut right to the ground by frost, as does this, which is Boliviana. Boliviana sometimes doesn't flower at all, it takes such a long time to get to flowering size. And that is now being towered over by Canna Twekheimii, still flowering. Melaleuca squarosa shouldn't be flowering now, but it is, and I'm not complaining. You can see that the branch with the flowers on it is nice and green, the one behind it rather orangey, yellowy. That suffered in the frost last year, it got damaged at the base, you can see that there. But it's making quite a lot of new growth from ground level. So I'm hoping it'll come through this winter, perhaps with a little bit of protection. The Campanula portentschlagiana is flowering away like mad, as if it were spring. And that's a Pittosporum anomalum at the front there. We recently came back from the Isles of Scilly, having had a week out there, and these were absolutely everywhere, Amaryllis belladonna. It's a thing they've used as a cut flower crop in the past, not so much now. A fortnight or so ago, I think there was about one bud showing above the ground, and now they're in full flower with numerous stems. They don't, at this time of year, have any leaves, and the leaves are all on Adicium Assam orange, and these are growing up through them. I was afraid that the shade that the Adicium had cast had rather stopped the Amaryllis performing, but no. The Adicium itself is starting to colour up quite a bright yellow, which it does every year. Late colour. And there are a few seeds showing on it as well, very brightly coloured, but rarely enough of them to put up much of a show. A couple of other things. This is Euphorbia Ascot Rainbow, which flowered early in the year, and I cut all the flowering stems off after they'd finished, down to an inch or so from the ground, and it's shot back up again and is looking very nice indeed, in sharp contrast to Euphorbia White Swan, which is just behind it and is looking quite poorly. And then out the front of the garden is Hylotelephium herbstfreud, excuse my massacring of the language, which I did a Chelsea chop on, which is doing very well. Not an insect in sight. Now we get onto a group of plants, the begonias, which I'm finding very useful for providing autumn interest in areas in shady areas where most of the things are spring flowering. This is Begonia grandis, a white form, fully hardy, dies right down in the winter. Comes up late, flowers from September. I have it running through my shade area, mixed with some pink grandis as well. This is the pink female flowers here, with the seed pods developing behind the flowers, some male flowers there as well. The orange is Impatiens oricoma crossed by cordata. That's not a hardy plant, so that would just die in the frost. Further up from that is Begonia torsa, which is a hybrid between grandis and a Bhutanese species, which seems not to be known or doesn't have a name. The flowers on this are very similar to grandis. The leaves are absolutely enormous, so quite a striking plant. It's come through 2 winters with me here with no protection in the garden, so it appears to be fully hardy and produces masses of bulbils from which it's easily propagated and which provide a guarantee anyway. Under my bamboo here I've got another grandis form. This is a Bledlin Wyn Jones from Krieg Farm collection, and he lists it as Begonia sinensis red undies, which is a selection from his collection of the species in China. It has somewhat smaller leaves, red on the underside, a little bit earlier into flower, and free flowering in sort of slightly tighter clusters. I planted this out in the spring under the bamboo, and it may be that when the roots of the bamboo have grown back and start competing with it, it might struggle a little bit. We shall see. This is looking at it from the back, and you can see the red underneath to the leaves. Pulling back from it, there's various other begonias, some hardy, some not, some in pots plunged in the ground, some in the ground. Impatiens stenantha with its yellow flowers. And then here is begonia U614. A number with a U prefix is what a begonia gets given if it's an unidentified species. This was collected in northern India by Michael Wickenden under the name Begonia sycamensis, which is wrong, and it has been languishing with just a number ever since. And I've had this in the garden for many years, and it survives outdoors through the winter, preferably with a covering of leaves. Comes through fine, and I think of the species is one of the best ones I've got. All talk of favourites though is dangerous stuff. This was last year's favourite, Garden Angel Blush, Terra Nova hybrid. Beautiful contrasting purple leaves. Very handsome. Good, but never going to be one of my favourites is Begonia tangchiana. It's a good performer, seems to be reliably hardy, come through again without any problem at all, covering of leaves over it. Flowers above the foliage, which not all of them do. And Begonia colesii, another contender for that tag of favourite. This is one of these ones that produces bulbils on the leaves at the top of the petiole. But what I'm currently getting excited about is that this looks to be like a flower bud. And I've not seen this one flower yet. So that's something to look forward to. Anyway, that concludes this quick trip around my garden in October. Hope you enjoyed that, found it interesting. And hopefully I can put something similar together for November. See you then.